You know how you have a change of season. You know, you can see it in the air, you can feel it, you can see the sun rising and sun setting different times. You know, you can smell the rain when it comes, and you know it's coming, you know the storm is upon you. There's things like that in our life that hit us, and we know there's a tide changing. We saw this several times in our history. Well, I think we had one of those just this last week. Something big is happening. Now, we hope it's in the right trajectory, but we're also going to discuss the disturbances and the evil that's still playing against it. Today we're going to discuss what is taking place, what's transpiring, what is changing, and how big this movement is. You ever heard, don't wake the sleeping giant, because you never know what you're going to get? We're to that point where we've woken the sleeping giant. A reawakening has taken place, but there are roadblocks. Let's dive in it today, because something's in the air. Is it the changing of the season? Is it rain? Or is it something so much bigger? Let's dive in. Hey guys, thank you so much for being here today. I wanted to make this video because yesterday I was encouraged. At the same time, I was discouraged. Now, what do I mean by that? I believe we're getting out of a time where we believe that there is a middle ground, that there's a tolerance. You know, you hear that word tolerance a lot. And I don't think the left has been tolerant for a long time. And I think the right is starting to wake up to not be tolerant anymore. Now, when I say the right, I don't mean Rhino Republicans. And when I say the left, I don't even mean Democrat establishment that just want to make money off of you. We're talking about the good and evil. We're talking about the split to where we're absolutely seeing change. Do you know what Charlie Kirk's name? You know how they have names and what each name means. Kirk means church. Charlie means free, so it's free church. Now, what does that mean? I think this is a bigger, broader topic that we need to utilize with the situation that took place last week. You're starting to see a movement of freedom in church once again. There was testimonies after testimonies after testimonies after testimonies yesterday about how many people they saw in church, how they had to park on the other side of the street, how they had to park in overflow parking, how they saw so many more people in their churches. I saw so many comments on Twitter and on YouTube stating, we haven't been to church in years, but we're going to go in honor of Charlie. I want to go back to what Charlie's wife said. I think that it does speak volumes. What has been released, you have no idea. This is not just simply evil. It is spiritual warfare. It's not political anymore. People are fed up and they don't want tolerance anymore. What is happening right now is you saw a movement towards conservatism. Now I think you're seeing a movement toward Christian conservatism. Would you have ever thought London, England would have a 1 million man march where people in the streets are claiming Christ as King? Would you ever thought Kennedy Center? Now Kennedy Center has been known as the liberal holdout in Washington, D.C. I mean, Trump took it over. No one's wanting to go to it. The plays, all this stuff has been liberal this, liberal that. Everybody's canceling the shows because they're all liberals. They're all actors. Shun Fute was there yesterday leading worship in honor of a vigil. The vice president is doing Charlie Kirk's show today in honor of him. Do you believe the tide is changing? Yes, I do believe there is a time of revival that could absolutely take place in the West. Not just in America, but I actually believe that Europe could have a chance to grab a hold too. You're starting to see the movements in France, Germany, even in South Korea, in the Far East, they had a vigil held for Charlie Kirk. Now, why do I bring this up? This is not just about Charlie, but this is about God and how God can use something so much bigger than us as humans. Now, here's what I love about what's going on. People are not just waking up to conservatism. Laura Loomer, who is not religious at all, she keeps saying, I'm not religious at all, but she is overwhelmed by this movement. There was an agnostic also that went viral stating that she's not religious, but she is overwhelmed by joy. And she bought a Bible and a shirt that has scripture on it in honor of the tragedies last week. You see people, even when they don't know it, God is pulling them. He's pulling them closer. You know, church should not be divisive. However, church should speak truth, which ultimately will be divisive. Not in hate, but in a righteous style anger. We're to a point now where if we love people, we're going to tell them the truth. And here's the thing. Here's the scary part. And this is where I want to really camp out. The overwhelming positive movement is to see Christ be glorified and reawakening and revival and a movement to real church. Now, that is true. Now let's talk about the evil. Now you're, like I told you, you're not seeing the middle anymore. You're seeing a complete and utter divide, which is very, very scary. Encouraging, but completely discouraging, because now you're seeing the colleges overwhelmingly moving towards this leftist ideology. Overwhelmingly pulling away from what Charlie was speaking about. Overwhelmingly pulling away from the church. So you're seeing that what we would consider a demonic force, but ultimately the fight of good versus evil. No middle ground anymore. You know, one thing I've learned in Scripture is that God would rather you either love Him or not claim His name. He doesn't want lukewarm Christianity. He doesn't want tolerance. He wants you to either be sold out to Him or completely, I mean, if you're not going to follow Him, He gives you the choice of loving Him, but you choose not to. Now, the thing we're starting to see with this college and this political divide is what is taking place. The colleges are moving further away. The liberals are moving further away. Ilhan Omar came out and praised Somalia this week and said it's better than the U.S. Ilhan Omar also came out this week and stated that she believed that it was all his fault. She should be taken out of Congress. But you know what? Now let's talk about the Republicans, the rhinos. Cox, you know, everybody's talked about Utah governor. He's a rhino. He's never actually been a conservative. Actually, if you go back in some of Charlie's videos, he never spoke highly of the Utah governor because he was more on the moderate side. Guess what? He came out yesterday and said that Charlie, I mean, some of the things he said was, you know, may have caused a lot of this. Oh, now you're starting to hear the truth now. You're starting to see this. You know what James Langford said? Oklahoma senator, who is a joke, by the way, not a conservative. I actually talked to a lot of my buddies in Oklahoma, and I'm like, what do you got? You guys got this absolute rhino, and you are the most Republican state in the nation. Anyways, I digress. He came out and said that it's not just one-sided. It's not just the Democrats causing this problem. It's the Republicans. So here's what I'm saying. While the movement of conservatism has taken place, the major discouragement is that the far left is pulling further left. Not only that, the leaders that's supposedly going to represent you, that doesn't want to lose their power, is trying to stay right in the middle ground, which is inevitable and impossible. So guess what they're going to do? The Overton window's going to shift, and I don't see them moving towards us. I actually see them moving away from us. What is so funny, this week Trump came out and he made a huge announcement about making the Charlie Kirk Act, the Smith-Mundt Act, which is basically stating that you can't propagandize the people. You can't lie to the people as media. Remember, that's a law. That was a law for a long time, and then guess what? Obama retracted it, and then therefore propaganda could happen legally in America. You didn't know that, did you? What's so funny is, you know, Trump and Massey are not the best buddies, and they actually don't get along. Guess who spoke up and said that he is going to help reverse that? Massey. Guess who spoke against him? Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson's not going to allow for the Smith-Mundt Act to go back in without some kind of revocation or some kind of, I guess, fight with Trump. Trump and now Massey are on the same side wanting this to pass, and Mike Johnson blocked it. There's no middle ground anymore, guys. You have to pick the side. There is no more middle ground. There is no more tolerance. There is no more, well, let's just all get along. There is not that point anymore. We're to a point where either we're going to have full revival or a full reset that's going to change the world forever. That is happening right now. That is the big thing happening right now. People are moving either towards Christ or they're moving away from Him. There is no middle ground anymore. And I think politicians are going to actually cause us for more harm because the Democrats and rhinos and even some of those fringe Republicans are all going to maneuver towards the left and towards establishment, which will ultimately use the Overton window to move completely away from God. Now, can we as a force of America do something about it? We can. Will we? Here's one thing I don't want to see. Right after 9/11, right after the Trump attempt, both those times churches were packed. Everybody was singing Kumbaya, everybody was happy, everybody tried to get on the same page. But it didn't work and it didn't stick, and it was like throwing noodles on the wall, and it stuck for a second and then it fell off, and then everybody went back to the same old, same old. Now we have a Muslim probably fixing to win New York City, a mayor race. We see that the rhetoric against Trump is even bigger than it's ever been before. We cannot allow for this time to take place. We cannot miss this opportunity where God can utilize this to make us stronger as a nation when it comes to conservatism, and not only that, Christianity. What does his wife say? This is not a political fight anymore. It's a spiritual one. We've been talking about that for a long time. The deal with against Muslims, it is not a political fight anymore. It is a spiritual one. The hatred of Israel, it is not a political fight. It is a hatred of them that is a spiritual one. We're in a time where that spiritual battle is taking place. You're going to have to choose a side, people. Here's what I want you to think about. If it comes down to you thinking I'm crazy when I say stuff like this, let's just look at the sides. We have one side praising Chargie's tragedy. We have the other side doing vigils. I love what was shared. 3 days after this took place, comparable 3 days after Floyd died, there was riots, loots, and busting of cities, cost over $2 billion in city damages. 3 days after this, prayer vigils, revivals, God's name being proclaimed. They said that Charlie Kirk's channel, subscriber channel, and his views and his watches has went up 10 to 15 times in the last week. He's impacting more people now than he ever did on earth. That is humbling. That almost makes me emotional. It gives me chills, because that is what God calls us to be. Think about it in the Bible. I get teary-eyed thinking about it. Stephen was a martyr. No one knew who Stephen was unless he was martyred for his faith. The first martyr in the Bible. If he just went around status quo, didn't go to the stand, didn't go in front of the leaders, he'd have never been martyred, but no one would have known his name. But now he became the martyr. The one that represented Christ when no one else would. And he lost his life for it. God used that situation to then start a movement that was so huge and still going today. Let this movement and what took place this week be the same thing. Let the voice of martyrdom speak and actually awaken true Christianity. I don't want to see people faking it. I don't want to see people saying, well, we may go to church. You're either going to be sold out for Christ or you're not. There is going to be a divisional line. You're not going to be able to play politics anymore, because this is not politics. This is spiritual. And this is where I cannot stand Congress and Senate, because they're going to try to play this as a game like they always do, to say, woe is me, you look at me, not this event. And they're going to try to be selfish and narcissistic like they always are, to bring the attention back on themselves. And that's what you already saw in all these stories I brought examples up of. The colleges, get your kids away from these schools. This guy was tired. Look, there's word that FBI tried to hide the fact of this boyfriend, quote unquote boyfriend, who dressed as animals. That was a fixation of these two guys. What went from a good, stable home to that? College, indoctrination, digital media, and not being grounded in faith. Let's use this time for something so much bigger than just politics. Let's use it for a reawakening and revival. I mean, again, packed houses in churches, overflow in the Kennedy Center for the situation yesterday with the worship service with Sean Feud. What if all of a sudden you started seeing salvations happen within politics? Wow, would that not change things? If some of our political leaders actually became Christians, not just say it, not name only. It's kind of like how you call rhinos. It's actually called sinos. It's like Christians in name only. A lot of these congressmen and Senate, they'll say they're Christians and they'll curse every other word, backstab their friends, and ultimately rip off the people of America. I'm done with all that. I think most people are done with all that. Go on Twitter and see the posts where people are saying we're getting saved, we're changing our life. Even though Charlie's gone, we're watching his videos now, and all of a sudden he's impacting our life. PBD brought this up, and I thought this was a huge comment. He said, this situation and this tragedy will be bigger than MLK. He said, not because of race. He said, here's why. He said, MLK impacted a lot of things. He's got boulevards named after him. He's got holidays named after him. He impacted a lot of things because of what happened to him. RFK, same way, JFK. Here's the thing. Every one of those people have less than about 100 hours worth of footage of what they spoke of, what they stood for, the words that they wrote. There's anywhere from 40 to 100 hours worth of content of people like RFK Sr. and MLK and Malcolm X and all of these people. And they still impacted tons of people. They said that Charlie Kirk's library is bigger than about 5,000 hours of content. Of just straight content of him talking. That's almost what? What is that? Literally 500 times or 100 times or whatever it is. You do the math. It's a whole lot more content than every other person that has been martyred for their beliefs when it comes to being a footprint in the world. Let's see what's happening and let's embrace it. But here's the thing. If we allow for our establishments, if we allow for our politicians, if we allow for our colleges to get a hold of it, we will go the wrong way and it will be used against us. But if we allow for us to stand up and actually fight and have righteous anger and love and compassion, but speak in honest and truth, God can do amazing things in America. You know, I don't think there's any time where in conservative circles, even when the attempt was on Trump, that the Yankee Stadium, that 28 teams or 27 teams in the NFL honored him. Several other MLB teams honored him. Again, all over the world they have vigils going on. That's huge. Now let's take it and let's actually run with it and become even bigger. Let's grow the reawakening and revival movement. I don't want a whippy Christianity, and I don't want a weak Republican, and I don't want a middle-of-the-line tolerant guy. We shouldn't want that. We shouldn't want it for our leaders for sure, and that's exactly what we've gotten for most of our Senate congressmen. Try to blame both sides and blame Trump, and that's a bunch of bull. Focus on the narrative and the truth. There's one side's calling the harm, and it's not just because we call them the Democrats. It's because it's a leftist ideology based in demonic ways. When we talk about the LG alphabet, it's biblically wrong, and not only that, it's pure evil, and now we're seeing it come to fruition. Now, tolerance. As a Christian, we can love people, but we cannot no longer be tolerant and act like everything's going to be okay. We have to have a righteous anger and truly see where God wants to take us and utilize this in a way that is honoring of Charlie, but more than that, it's honoring of Christ. That's what I want to see happening. Sleeping giant's been woken? Yes. Look at England. Oh my gosh. But what do we do with it from here? Morgan Wallen doing a big, tribute to Charlie. Lighting up all over Edmonton. Great. What do we do with here? What do we do with it from here? You have all these situations where it's representing two ways. You either fall to the conservative movement and push towards a Christian movement, or you literally fall for pure evil. There is no middle ground anymore. Something big is happening. And now, are you ready for it? Now, before we end, what has been impactful for you this week? Comment below. There will be 30, 40, 50,000 people watch this video. Please, I want to know in the comments, where have you seen a difference already this week? And do you believe that the middle is no longer in existence? You're either going to be for a Christian conservative reawakening, or you're going to be almost good versus evil, like I said. I want to know your thoughts. Comment below. Tell me your thoughts on what's going on. That helps us grow together. God bless. Be free.